Before he was the Democratic VP nominee, before he made weird happen and called out J.D. Vance as a sectional predator. You see what I did there? Before he was governor of Minnesota, where he provided universal free school meals for students, protected reproductive freedom, strengthened voting rights, and laid the groundwork to get Minnesota to 100% clean electricity by 2040. Kamala Harris's running mate, Tim Walz, worked as a high school teacher and football coach. And in the days since the announcement, we've learned from former students just how formative his time as an educator and coach was, not just to his political career, but also to Walz as a person. He first taught in his native rural Nebraska, where he met his wife, Gwen, whom he shared a classroom with. And then in Mankato, Minnesota, where he was named Most Inspiring Teacher for efforts including helping found its first Gay Straight Alliance group and coaching the varsity football team to their first state championship. His students in the days since the announcement took to social media to share their stories. One told ABC News, quote, "He wasn't screaming when you failed. He was screaming when you did well. He's 2 fists over his head, jumping 3 feet in the air," unquote. Another, Noah Hobbs, who had Mr. Walz as a teacher in 2004, the last class he taught before running for Congress, wrote, "I was a C student, better in some classes, worse in others. And Walz didn't leave out lesser performing students." He noted that Walz is the kind of guy who, if Norman Rockwell was still painting, he'd be his portrait of an average Midwesterner. And Noah Hobbs joins me now. So Noah, thank you for being here. I guess my first question is, what was your initial reaction when you heard that your former teacher was going to be the running mate of Vice President Harris to potentially become Vice President of the United States?
Yeah, it's pretty surreal, right? I don't know if any president or vice president has been a grade school teacher, so it's a unique experience. But when I saw the news, I think at about 7:50 on Monday morning, it was tears of joy and just being immensely proud of Mr. Walz.
Yeah, and I will note for our audience that we are waiting for Governor Walz and Vice President Harris to come out on the stage. So we're gonna, and when that happens, we will go to it. Right now in the polls, the percentage of people who are favorable toward Mr. Walz for Governor Walz are 17%, unfavorable just 13%. It's that unsure, never heard of number that's huge. 70% say they don't really know him. What should people know about your former teacher?
Yeah, Mr. Walz is one of the most genuine, authentic, caring people. And, I hope everyone has a favorite teacher and thinking of how, those traits and then turn them up to 11. That's Mr. Walz to a T. And he made, learning engaging. He was, the description you gave of the athlete, he was that way in the classroom. So imagine having someone so invested and excited in your success and not so much disappointed in failures or not meeting expectations. It's the most, I cannot say enough kind things about Mr. Walz as a teacher and as a congressman and governor.
I think that it's very true. Ms. Fain, Ms. Jacoby, Mr. Duguay, Mr. Sims. I think I've mentioned Mr. Sims. Like, I still remember my high school teachers, the teachers that really change your life. And they do really leave a mark on you for the rest of your life because they encouraged you to learn. They encouraged you to be who you become. When you left that high school, did anything that you learned from Mr. Walz sort of shape who you became?
Yeah, 2 ways, certainly. One is, assistant high school baseball coach and treating each kid, whether they're the highest performing, athletes with the greatest ability or kids that may never see the field or rarely see the field, treating each one with the dignity and respect that each kid, is entitled to and should have. That's a big one for the past 5 years for me. And I served 6 years on the Duluth City Council up here, and having Mr. Walz as a role model of someone that's not Ivy League educated, that doesn't come from significant money, that an average, everyday, hardworking public servant can make good, really kind of alters the shape of what we currently have, oftentimes on the national level. And so those are 2 big ways. And then also having just an adult outside of your family that exhibits such positive, a positive role model in how to interact and really care for one another, treating each people as individuals and not, numbers, statistics, or whatever else it is that you do for a living. It's stuck with me forever.
Yeah. And I mean, you said you still live in Minnesota. What's he like as a governor? I mean, how has he performed in your view?
Yeah, I think he's been great. I work in affordable housing for my day job, and we've made a significant investment in that for the first time. Invested over $1 billion, and housing is a huge need across the entire country, but Minnesota as well. And he's done, free school lunches for kids. Kids shouldn't be hungry when they go to school. He's expanded a lot of those types of programs, and I think those are it's a good model for the country.
People have compared him to Ted Lasso. Like, people are starting to call him sort of the political Ted Lasso. Talk to me about when your high school won this football championship. Apparently, you guys had been a losing team, and suddenly you were a winning team. Talk about that.
Yeah, so that is a little bit before my time, but I've heard, I think it was for sure full season of losing games all year, and didn't score a touchdown until like the second to last game before they went the next season, went to our first state championship, and folks still talk about it to this day.
Yeah, let me read a couple of former students besides yourself who have talked about him. Nate Hood to the energy he's bringing right now to the campaign reminds me of the energy he would bring to the football practice. Tara Borowski said he was the guy everybody seemed to trust and wanted to have, no matter who you were or what clique you were in. Kent Warwicznik, I'm sorry if I'm pronouncing it wrong. He's sincere. He's really easy to talk to. He's very knowledgeable. Jacob Wrighton said he's a remarkable individual. Aaron Miller, he wanted input. He wanted to consider what we thought. He'd put together a plan, very thoughtful, again, I think, driven for success. And one more, I think we'll just leave it there. We have so many. One wishes everyone would say such nice things about you. And I think that it's a credit to him that this is how his students feel. Just one last thing. What kind of a vice president do you think he would make?
I think it'll be great. I think the ability to boil down and distill complex ideas so that 14 and 15-year-olds can understand them and learn from it is a great trait for the nation. And then also being able to be a bridge builder. It's hard not to like the guy. And so if you're, bipartisan working, when he was in the Congress, he was one of the most bipartisan members. And it's a trait I think that's more needed in society today. And I think he brings that to the ticket, but also just a great communicator, and everyone he interacts with, you can tell is a genuine interaction, and he fully just enjoys it, and the absolute joy that he brings to everything he does.
Cherish your favorite teachers, because you never know where they're going to go in life and what they will accomplish and what they'll help you accomplish. Noah Hobbs, thank you for spending some time with us. We really appreciate your insights on your former teacher.
Thank you.